Chapter 9, Providing Map Options, Step-by-Step Movie 9.1. Alright, so now we're ready to create the map options scene. Let me first make some space. Double click to zoom out. Since our new scene will be launched from the location scene, we'll put it to the right of it. And I need to do a navigation controller. You can read the chapter on that in case you missed that point as to why. I'll move this over to the right. And I can click off, deselect, and just move them a little closer together to give myself some space. So ultimately, we are going to launch this scene from a toolbar on the location scene. So we need to add that toolbar to the location scene now. So we're looking for a toolbar. And again, if we don't find it right away, I can type the word tool, and there it is. I'm going to double click to zoom in. I'm going to grab that toolbar and bring it down to the bottom. And when I can see the dotted lines appear vertically in the center and all the way around the edge of the scene, I know I'm in the right position and I can let go. Now there's already an item button here, but as mentioned in the book, we can't use that one based on what we need to do, so we need to delete it. So I'm going to click the item button to select it, and you can see by looking in the attributes inspector, I do have that selected now. And I press the delete key. That removes the button from the toolbar. Now we need to go back to the object library. We're going to drag a button, just a plain old button. Again, I can just type button. See, there's a variety of buttons. The one we want is just plain button. Grab this, drag it over, and put it on this side. And you can see it does keep it on the left side of the toolbar for us. Now if we were to look at document outline, you can see we've actually added our button inside of a bar button item. So Xcode did that automatically for us. I actually want to select this one, and then I can hide the document outline. So with that button selected, I go to the attributes inspector, and I'm going to change the type to Info Light. There's a familiar iPhone button for you. Now, users normally expect to see this info button on the right side of the toolbar, but I can't drag this over. Xcode will just not let me do it. So what I need to do to make this happen is add a flexible space bar button item. And because we have filtered on button, I can see it right here. I need to click and drag it. I bring it over to the left-hand side, and when I let go, it pushes it over to the right side of the toolbar, just where I want it. So now that we have this button, we want to create a segue between this button and our new scene. So I first click on the toolbar to select it. I click again to get the bar button item, and then do it a second time to get the inner button. I hold my control key down, I click here, I drag over, and when my scene highlights in blue, I let go of my mouse, then let go of my control key, and this time we're going to select a modal segue. And there it is. So it creates a slightly different looking segue than we've seen before. As you can see, it contains a small square. So if I select the segue in the design surface, you can see the info button is highlighted in blue. Now if we go over to the attributes inspector, we can see there is a transition and it is set to default. So there's a variety of ways that we can transition to a modal scene. If I click here, I can see different options: cover vertical, flip horizontal, I can do a dissolve, or I can do a partial curl. And the default option is the same as cover vertical, which is what we want. So that means that the view slides up from the bottom of the screen. So we're just going to leave that set to where it is. So now that we've created our segue, we're ready to set up the map options scene. So I move past the navigation controller, I go over to the root view controller, I double click, and I specify map options and press return. Now we've selected the table view in the document outline before, but we can actually just click here and notice it does select the table view for us. I'm going to change the content to static cells, and again the style to grouped. We need to add more sections to the table, but before we do that, let's delete the last two rows in the table view. Click here, hold the Shift key down, I click again, and I press delete. Now I select the table view again by clicking down in this area. I go to the Attributes Inspector, and in the Sections attribute, I click up to create a new section. So now we want to add a segmented control to the table view. So I'll get rid of our filter. It's near the top. I could just scroll down here. So I click the segmented control, I can drag it, and I want to center it right in the middle of this first cell. And I let go. Now we actually need 3 buttons here. So I'm going to go to the Attributes Inspector, click the up arrow on Segments, and now I have 3 buttons. And the new one does not have a label. But I'd like this to take up a little more space, give me a little more room for my label title. So I'm going to drag to the left until I see that vertical guideline bar. And I'll click over here to this resizing handle, move it over to the right, and now I have a lot more room for what I want to do. So I need to change the title of each button. I want this one to be standard. Double click here. I want this label to be hybrid. If I double click here, now this seems to be a bug at least in the beta of Xcode 6. So it's not letting me change that. So what I can do instead